Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So thank you for coming on the call, even though you're not feeling well. That's very nice of you. And congratulations with the Steve Harvey interview. It was really, really well done. It was great. So you guys must feel so proud of yourselves right now. So thanks a lot for that as well. My question is about my TDA. I am a teacher in New York City, and I have about 10 more years left till I retire. So right now I have they let you split up your TDA, your tax deferred annuity, into diversified and fixed. So I believe I've always had it like 80-20, but I just realized that the diversified has options and I didn't know that. So there's like a bunch of different options. And I just wanted to know like how, like what's the best way to like pick between the different funds, because they have like three or four. There's like a sustainable one, there's an international one. Like, do I just go by like the history, or do you think it's better to just stay with like the one they recommend, which I think is just, they call it like the diversified?
Yeah, it's always good to rule of thumb. You always want to look at rate of returns. That's something that's a cheat code whenever you look at investments, especially like 401k or any type of retirement plan investments. Usually like they'll give you a sheet and it'll have like the different funds. So it's like the stable fund, the growth fund, the
Mm-hmm.
international fund, and then they'll have like the year to date return, 3-year return, 5-year return, 10-year return since its inception. What I like to do is look at the longest possible time frame. So like 10 years or since its inception. Sometimes if it's new, it might not have a 10-year track record. It might have like a 5-year or 4-year track record. But you want to
Yeah.
try to look at the longest possible time frame and see which one has usually performed best for that. Usually, like I haven't really been a big fan on international funds, just me personally, especially like in retirement accounts. Over the last like 10 years, they haven't really done
Mhm.
as good as like just international growth funds. So it really just depends on your risk tolerance. But the growth funds is always going to be something that's going to usually, be the best as far as growth over the course of time. That's like more large cap companies. And but the good thing, and I don't know if they changed it, but I know a few years ago for the fixed account for the city, how much is the fixed account paying? Like 7%, something like that?
It's 7.25. When I started, it was 8.5 or 8.25, but then they lowered it to 7.25. So I was able to get the 8% like the first 2 or 3 years I started teaching, but now it's 7.25. And like I have about 10 more years left. So I have like 20 years already and I have 10 more to go. But the sustainable index gives a greater return, but it's very new. So it's only like a few years old. So I'm like, should I trust that? And then they also say to like switch it right before you're about to retire to just be in the fixed one. So you don't have to worry about like big issues with the market.
Yeah, well, the good thing with that is that that's pretty much unheard of to have a fixed account that earns 7%. So that is one thing that the New York City school department, that's like really like kind of amazing that they have a fixed account, which is like pretty much no matter what the stock market does, you can earn 7%. So usually a fixed account in this environment is like 1% or less than 1%. So 7% on a fixed account is extremely good. So I wouldn't take it all out of there. Definitely would probably leave some money in there just for the safety purposes of it. Like, if all else fails, if the stock market crashes, you're guaranteed to get 7%. That's not bad. Obviously, that's not as good as if the stock market goes crazy and you get 30% or 20%. But it's all about diversification. So I would diversify, but I would leave at least like probably 25% in a fixed account because that's just like a guarantee insurance almost.
Mhm.
All right, thank you, Sedalia. All right, Dwight, we're coming to you. Unmute yourself, please. Dwight, you're unmuted. You should be able to speak. All right, looks like he's having difficulties too.
Sometimes you gotta on the Zoom too. You gotta make sure you unmuted on your end too. Like we can unmute you, but make sure you unmuted on your end so we could
Yeah, he had unmuted himself, but he wasn't speaking. All right, Dwight, we're gonna go to the next person. Natasha, unmute yourself, please.
Hello. I have a question about a trust. Who do I go to start a trust? A trust
Where do you live?
in Maryland.
Well, I know. So the lawyers that we use, the thing with the law is that it's different. Like MG, he could practice in almost any state for the mortgages, but lawyers they have to be licensed in this state. So I know we've used Sabina a lot. I know she's licensed in New York and New Jersey. I don't know if she's licensed in Maryland. But I think that we had somebody that was licensed in Maryland, because I remember I got that question before from somebody from Maryland. But if not, we can definitely, look. I don't want to give you an answer right now because I don't know off the top of my head, but maybe we could put it in a Facebook group after we, do some research and find some good attorneys. Maybe Magna, maybe that's something that we can just do, period. Like, we can try to highlight some different professionals in different areas of the country, especially the law thing, because that's something that, you depending on what state you live in, you got to really use the lawyer that's practicing in your state, and that could become a little tricky if you live in states that we haven't really featured lawyers in that state. So
Okay.
yeah, the
And one
legal
more,
club, we have a legal club actually, so maybe that's something that the legal club can do.
and one more quick question. I remember you were saying I think it was 13 or 14, you should put 6,000 in a IRA for your child. Is that it could be an estimate. I think I was saying 1 million. Is that 6,000 for when she's 14, or 6,000 every year will equate to that estimate?
Yeah, so what I did when I thought I was on a Breakfast Club, when I said that a while ago. I was using an example, like if you put 6,000 a year in, from, I believe it was like, the example that I gave was like from 14 to 20. I believe, like from 14 to 20. And I just used a hypothetical, like if it earned 10%, I use like QQQ, which, is averaged more than 10% over the last 20 years. But I'm like, all right, if you earn like 10% a year, by the time they're 60, then they will have $1 million. So obviously, it's not like 100% guarantee, because it depends on the market. But that was an example that I had gave just to kind of illustrate the power of investing early. Because if you think about it, even if it's not 6,000, whatever you can do, but that's only like 4 years or 6 years of investing. And just by the compounding interest and leaving it in for such a long period of time, then that equaled $1 million without even having to put any more money in after the age of 20. So, that was just an example of, the power of compounding interest. And you definitely, and I think the example that I actually gave was with the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA is even better for kids because they don't pay any taxes on it when they take the money out. So now you set up their retirement account when they're young, and by the time they get to retirement, they're gonna have a tremendous amount of money just by the money that was set up for them while they were teenagers, and that has nothing to do with their own 401ks or their own IRAs when they get old enough to actually set it up for themselves. So that's definitely a strategy that parents can use for their children whenever they turn legal working age. And the rule is you could put up to, well, 6,000 is the max, but you could put up to whatever the child made. So like if they have a part-time job and let's say they made like $3,000 for the year, then you could put up to $3,000. But it's not unreasonable to have $6,000, because it's like if they work at like CVS or something like that, they make $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. So $500 a month, that's not really a lot for a part-time job. So and then if you're self-employed, it's even better, because if you're self-employed, then you can hire your child and you can pay them, and when you pay them, you get a tax deduction for the money that you paid them, and then that money you can put into the Roth IRA or an IRA for your child. So that's like a double-edged sword, because now you're actually saving money on taxes and your child is working for you, and you get to save money for their retirement. So a lot of different things that you can do with that. But yeah, that's some different ideas for sure.